So yeah, I'm often asked about China, and I would say in my response quite frequently that China changed me. It is that kind of place, I believe, that just changes people who visit, or people who decide to stay longer. I think it's partly because you arrive, you step off that aeroplane with a little bit of arrogance or ignorance, and you really just do not know what to expect. And I also think it's because China really is just so full of surprises. I mean, it's chock full of surprises. You experience them on a daily basis. I could list them and share them here, but it would take a whole lot of time. But for me, the one thing that I would definitely wrap my arms around is that China feels like the way a society should feel. It's safe, naive, friendly, it's engaging. People are curious in society that's full of people wanting to learn or growing, innovating, asking questions. China's advancing, and you can physically see that everywhere you go. Every street corner you turn on, something is there to prove that it's advanced over the last so many years. Although I do think I've just made up a list. But again, lists are important. But this list, I know as soon as I share it, it pisses people off in the Western Hemisphere. And so it should. The green-eyed monster is something that you should be aware of, and that's driving some of that anger that you've got towards China. Don't be jealous or angry. Just be curious, ask the questions. And I do often wonder if I would feel the same way about the world if I hadn't lived in China for the last 8 years or so, and if I'd chosen to live somewhere else. I know that if I had lived somewhere else, I would be a different man from what I am today. Absolutely obvious to me that that would be the case, but I still would have that same curiosity. However, I definitely think it would be shaped differently. I'm unsure if I would have that same desire to fix the world by helping pull back the curtain like the big reveal in The Wizard of Oz, because that's what China does. When you experience it, you're like, hey, there's stuff happening here and you're not aware of it. People in other countries in the Western Hemisphere, so to speak. Travel broadens the mind, they say, and I would never argue with that, but travelling and holidaying are two different things. That's another takeaway for me from my time here in China. In the UK, we see 2 weeks in Spain, it's like Greece or whatever. We call that travelling, but that to me is like holidaying. In China, there is a zest for travelling, exploring and understanding more of the world. And I guess where that's come from, it's probably historical or cultural. It's maybe a pushback against that well-appreciated isolation. It's reactionary, but I also like to think it's that pure and absolute curiosity that's here within the population. So absolutely, travelling and living abroad opens up your eyes, and it really does kickstart your brain to look further into the headlines, further into the Western narrative, and look beyond some of the key stories that they tell you in the media. It really does open up that curiosity in you, and it makes you ask so many questions. I mean, I go through my day asking questions like, how does that work? Does that make sense? Why would they do that? How did they build that? What is going to happen now? Where did that come from? Just so many questions in so little time. And I accredit that curiosity to having my eyes opened up during my time here in China and realising that the story and narrative that's told in the Western media is just not accurate. And that's what's driving, I think, some of this channel's curiosity. I think as I dig into history, I realise that often my understanding of it is way off, and so is many other people's understanding of history. I don't quite know what we got taught at school, but people, for instance, will cite the fall of Roman Empire in relation to the UK. But the UK Empire didn't fall. It kind of just shriveled up and turned into a bank, with 40% of the world's international transactions going through the UK and the UK's safe haven banking industry, where there's a whole lot of funny things going on. Then, yeah, the British Empire just evolved into something else. The USA, I would say, does have the feel of late stage Roman Empire, overstretching class wealth divide, economic troubles, religion and philosophical challenges, both beliefs pulling against each other, and then there's corruption at the highest level. But then for me, history does repeat itself. As Karl Marx said, history repeats itself first as a tragedy, then a farce. Karl Marx. I'm quoting Karl Marx. Where am I? So I also look at the complex issue of immigration, and I'm not a fan of unchecked immigration for reasons that it does not bode well for the local population, because it puts an incredible strain on a country when that country is not investing in itself. But I'm also not a fan of bombing and debasing countries to cause such immigration and migration problems. But with an ageing population, dwindling workforce, and a fall in the number of consumers, then you have to ask yourself, is there a larger picture at play here? And in my opinion, we need immigration, and diversity does add quality to the discussion and does enhance communities. I believe that communities can benefit from immigration, but I also believe that governments could do better to manage the current immigration levels. But I think they choose not to do that. After all, economics and economies, they need consumers and they need them fast. And governments also need votes. So speaking of economies and economics, I've actually come to realise that no one really knows what the hell is going on when it comes to global and local economies like macro and micro economics. Most of these TV pundits and the finance YouTubers and so on, they're making it all up as much as what we all are. They're blagging it and bluffing their way through the day, their financial day, in the same way as what we are. Economics is not a science. It's a hunch. It's a wet finger in the air for most people. We all know, and I'm sure you probably are aware, that there will be a big bust at some point, a bubble somewhere popping. And we know when that actually happens, money, wealth will flow up. And if I was to put my finger on anything that is going to cause a problem across cities, communities and so on, I would say it's that ever-growing wealth gap. That will be the biggest strain on what happens next. It's hot here. I'm up at the Bird's Nest, the Olympic Park, but I think I'm going to go somewhere else. Stick with me.
So high, I'm hypnotized. What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through.
People will drop into the comments box below and they will call me a communist, and I don't even think they know what that means. They will shout, yeah, commie, but they don't even know what that means. I mean, what does that mean in this day and age? They will call me a socialist. The word that the media has told you is evil, and you don't even realise that there are socialist programmes that exist in your country right now, and many of them, which I guarantee you actually use and very much rely on. So go ahead and chat GPT that and you'll soon find that out. I might be a socialist, but I also believe in capitalism. I think I'm on the spectrum somewhere and amongst all that. I will never understand though that out and out capitalism that just wants to exist to the point that it causes the terrible impact on communities, countries and people. I mean, I read something the other day that made me kind of giggle, but also made me think. And that was, Jeff Bezos could have been Batman, but he bought a mega yacht instead. And that just makes me think. So I suppose, communist, socialist, capitalist, For me, these are all tags. Inside of each of them are varying degrees and a whole lot of subgroups that people try to squeeze themselves into. Communism never takes into account basic human nature for competition. That's what they say. But that human nature is never taken into account when we discuss capitalism, even though the same rules of human nature apply. People take advantage of each other if they are given that stage. To be honest, I believe I am a humanist, but I'm not even sure what that means. But then, I'm not the sharpest tool in the box, although I am smart enough to know that I am not smart because I know that I know nothing. I think that's Socrates. There's so much to explore and I don't even know about you, but I've got that never-ending feeling that I'm running out of time. So many days until I die. I think I have something like 11,000 days left to live, and there are just so many places I want to see and experience inside of China and beyond. You could spend 11,000 days exploring China and still not scratch the subject or even scratch the surface. I see lists like 100 books to read before you die, but I think, what about the books that are still to come? What about them, the ones that are unwritten? 100 movies to see, but again, what about the movies still to come? All that stuff just makes me think. I should probably list 100 things to see in China before you die. After all, many people do say to me that I should focus this channel more, niche down they say, share more of just China experiences, focus on that and stop the yabba yabba yabba. But I think that is the same as what most people are doing when they're visiting China, most of the foreign bloggers. For money, possibly, for viewing figures. For me, where's the fun in that? Although I have to say that I think everyone is selling something, even myself, truth be told. I am also selling something. I tell myself that I'm selling the idea of peace, something that I'm passionately in favour of, obviously, and I think it's the best way forward for mankind. But in reality, I do want to be selling the idea of curiosity. I love the idea of pulling on a piece of string, scratching at the idea, and asking questions to keep exploring the very same idea that you pull at, and then sharing that. And above all, as I scratch and question and pull on that string, I want to be learning so that I've got something to do when I retire. But I'm not sure if I'm ever going to retire. The question I think you have to ask yourself in this cost of living crisis and growing wealth gap is, will we actually be able to retire? Apparently, that is now an entitlement. Yeah. Will we ever be able to retire?